Welcome to online lecture series of distributed computing system. I am Professor Arun Wangmare. Last lecture we have studied different definitions of this distributed systems. Also we have studied why we built this distributed system and different design goals of the distributed system. In today's lecture we will see system architecture, that is architecture model and different characteristics of the distributed system. So in system architecture, the system model is basically the conceptual model that offers a detailed view of the specific system. System modeling basically assists the system analyst for better understanding the overall functionality of a respective system. The system model of the distributed system is classified into three types. That is architecture model, fundamental model, and physical model. So what is this architecture model? Mainly this architecture model has four types. First one is a layered architecture, second one is objects based architecture, third is data center architecture, and fourth one is a event based architecture. So layer architecture. So basic idea of the layer architecture is that all the components are organized in layered manner, where the components at any layer is allowed to call the components at its underlying layer. The fundamental observation is that control generally flows from layer to layer. That is, you can say requests go down the hierarchy, whereas the result flow upwards. Second one is object-based architecture. In object-based architecture, RPC, that is remote procedure call mechanism, is used in this type for the communication. So in the object-based architecture, each component or object is connected through a remote procedure mechanism. Any object can call to any object in the system, and hence you can say the object, or you can say the called object, can return the data or information to the calling object. And third one is a data center architecture. According to the name, right? So server or database lies at the center of the architecture, while the clients placed around the server. The center server provides the data or information to the different clients of the system. Next, last one, that is event-based architecture. So in event-based architecture, or processor basically communicate or connect through the transmission of events, which also carry or carry the data or information. Fundamental idea is the process announce the events. After announcement of the events, middleware confirms that only those processes that subscribe to those events will receive them. The main advantages of this event-based architecture is that processes are loosely coupled, or they are simply distributed. Next, the characteristics of the distributed system. So distributed system must possesses the following characteristics, that is security, openness, fault tolerant, and transparency. So what is this security? So security, distributed system should permit the communication between resources, or you can say user, on the different computers by enforcing necessary security arrangements. The security features are mainly proposed to provide the confidentiality, integrity, and availability. So confidentiality means what? Is the characteristics of the information with the help of which only those with sufficient privileges and can say demonstrate need many access certain data or information. Integrity, what is the integrity? Integrity is the quality or state of being whole, completed, and uncorrupted. The corruption can occur while information being entered, stored, or transmitted. Other important security concern is that authentication and authorization. So what is this authentication and authorization? Simply meaning of authentication is confirmation. And authentication occurs when the control proves that user possesses the identity that he or she claims. After the identity of the user is authenticated, process known as authorization guarantees that user, whether that is computer or that is automated system or a person, has been explicitly and specifically authorized by the proper authority to access, modify, or delete the content of the information. Next is openness. Next characteristics, openness. So an open system has advantage over a self-governing or independent and completely closed system. The attribute openness authorizes that system is persistently opens or collaboration with the other system in the environment. The protocols allows the distributed system to be extended and scaled. Distributed system free from the heterogeneity of the basic environment such as software, hardware, platform accomplish the property of the openness. The next is fault tolerant. So what is the goal of this fault tolerant? Fault tolerant is to avoid the failures in the system even in the presence of faults to provide the continuous service. So service is said to be a fault tolerant if it is able to, the system is said to be a fault tolerant if it is able to cover the presence of errors. Typically, the fault tolerance is attained by the providing the redundancy. So what is this redundancy? Those units of the system that are not required for the system properties and exact functioning is nothing but the redundancy. So in redundancy, there are three types: time redundancy, software redundancy, and hardware redundancy. So in time redundancy, same instruction is executed many times. So time redundancy is used to handle the temporary faults in the system. Hardware redundancy is attained by adding the extra hardware components to the system, which take over the role of failed components in case some faults occur in them. Software redundancy includes the extra instruction or code included for the managing the extra hardware components and using them correctly for uninterrupted services. In case of some components failure, the hardware redundancy is attained by the adding extra hardware components to the system, which take over the role of failed components in case some faults occur in them. The aim of the fault tolerant system is to increase the availability or reliability. So reliability of the system is defined as the probability that system lives till the required time. Reliability system prevents the loss of information even in the events of the component failure. Availability is the fraction of time for which system is available for the usage. Next, transparency. This transparency we have already studied in our last lecture. So basically in transparency, there is a different forms of this transparency distributed system. There is a location, migration, access, replication, failure, and concurrency. So we have already studied these different types of transparency.